We officially broke Path of Exile 2 leveling and made it too easy. Big disclaimer, this works on every single class, and you can either use cool uniques to make it faster, or completely solo self-found. I recently refined and retuned the build in a speedrun, and it took me 6 hours from Act 1 to Act 6. That being said, I made some mistakes, and it could have been less than 5 hours to make a new character all the way from level 1 to 65. And again, it doesn't matter which class or which ascendancy you're going for, it will work. Now, how do we turn you from a stranded nerd into a boss destroying monsters that doesn't even have to look for items as he flies through the campaign and simply just gathers all the currency to craft in the end game? First, let's talk about the skills, then about the passives to make it work, because there are very specific things to pick. And afterwards, the items that make this even more streamlined that you don't need, but they're very fun. I've been using the spear, for example, from level 5 on to level 65. Yeah, for level 1 skills, you have two choices. As soon as you enter the encampment, you either get disengage and then slam a stomping ground gem on it to pretty much backwards disengage into your opponents and just wipe the whole floor, because that's how much damage stomping ground does. And this works on any class. Right now, I've been doing a witch, for example. If that seems a bit too clunky for you, I recommend until level 6 to play the Hawk Hunt Fell Club together with Rolling Slam and Bone Shatter. This Hawk Hunt Fell Club, equipable pretty much from the beginning on, just absolutely decimates everything in your way. If you then give the Rolling Slam a martial tempo and also a magnified effect to simply hit more, and your Bone Shatter gets the impact shockwave and brutality, you will fast track yourself to level 6, obliterating anything in your path. And that's not the only unique item you can take to make this easier. But first, let me go on with level 6 skills and passives and then show you more of the gear pieces. Because with level 5 and 6, you can put on the Iron Hat Spear, that you get plus 30 strength. The plus 30 strength is really needed. And also the Stomping Ground over to the Rake. And that's going to be your damage from this point on. Not the Rake itself, simply the Stomping Ground with the Shockwave that's scaling with strength. But not only with strength, here it gets interesting. Because the Stomping Ground says attack, AoE, trigger, and physical. What does this even mean? Because if we now boost our strength like crazy to 356 or 400 and beyond, yes, we'll do a lot of damage, but this falls off over time, unless you're doing the right thing in your passives. And with the right thing, we're talking about taking physical and attack notes. I'm a witch. I start on the left side. We take strength, then we take some attack and cast speed so we can rake faster. But for example, this note down here in the monk tree, it says 24% increased attack damage. This does not only increase the damage of your rake, it also makes the stomping ground stomp harder. And if you now have tons of strength, and then you also increase the attack damage, that's where it's at. We're talking also attack damage there. Physical damage bonus. Yes, 25% increased physical damage. The same here, 20% physical damage. And then attack damage. All of this makes Stomping Ground stomp harder. That you can sit in the mapping stage and still use Stomping Ground blasting your way through enemies while you're leveling to the point that you can swap into the build you want to. That would be, in my case, level 65. So I can swap into a Bone Cage build. Very important for your skill point, 8% increased melee damage does not scale the Stomping Ground. Because again, the Stomping Ground says attack, trigger, physical. The Rake itself is a melee skill. The Rake would get more damage from this. But the Stomping Ground, which is our main damage, does not get more damage. Now, in order to make the Rake really go crazy, and here also keep in mind, you don't even have to level up the skill gem. You could keep it as a level 3 skill gem. We're slapping on Heft for maximum physical damage on hit, Close Combat to increase the attack damage on close targets, and then Splinter to break armor. And the interesting part here is you break armor equal to 15% of physical damage. The Stomping Ground is physical damage. Therefore, a single rake breaks armor on every single target and 2 or 3 rakes on a boss. And then the boss takes 20% more physical damage, aka the Stomping Ground doing more damage. If you're leveling a second character with this, I recommend making a rake gem in the beginning, level 3, and then just give it 4 gem sockets. That rake gem will now be your level 3 rake gem that you can use for every single level up build. Again, if the rake gem is level 10 or 3, doesn't really matter for this build. It doesn't make the build stronger to actually level up your rake. No, having a level 3 rake gem that you can use for every single toon from this point on will be OP. Now you get your rake spam to fly through maps, kill every single boss. That's great. But we need to add a little bit more tempo to it. And that would be a simple shield charge with ingenuity for cooldown reduction, flying you through the maps. Now I said there are certain pieces of cool equipment you can take to make this stronger. And all of these cool equipment pieces cost 1 exalt. Yeah, if you don't already have them. They're super cheap, but have a massive impact. Now that being said, I tried the whole thing solo self-found. Yeah, solo self-found. And it worked fantastic as well. I have this from level 5 on, and I didn't change it. Pretty much have one Tyranny's grip throughout all the game. Act 1 to Act 6 into the mapping stage, still wearing it. From level 1 to 5, 6, I did use the Hockhandfeld Club. Again, we're using the Tyranny's grip because it's a spear for the rake, and it does plus 30 strength. Then we also use the Horns of Binden. Horns of Binden is 22 strength and gives us melee. Melee is more attack damage, therefore we deal more damage with the Stomping Ground as well. Fantastic. Next item will be the Fox Shade, giving us more movement speed on full life, and we're pretty much always full life as we just one-hit everything away, allowing us to zoom faster through the maps, together with the Straw Sandals from level 1 on for more movement speed, and we play Dionad Air. I don't know how to pronounce this. Another 14 strength bonus from level 1 on. But then from level 6 on, the Yarn Gripers, they give us more physical damage, life, attack speed, that's nice, and strength can satisfy other attribute requirements on melee weapons and weapon skills. Which means if you then want to level up the rake, mine is level 10, needs 83 dex, I have 75 dex, but hey, Yarn Gripers. Again though, keep in mind you really don't have to level up the rake gem, because the biggest problem right now is, due to the Yarn Gripers, I can't just go into the stash, gems, and now take a tier 12, I think tier 13, and upgrade the rake. Because he's not allowing me to do this. He says I am lacking the dexterity, even though you have the Yarn Gripers. Sure, I could now engrave a new one, but if I would engrave a new one like this, it wouldn't be the 4-link one. Until you pretty much have the dexterity, you cannot higher the level. But again, you don't need to higher the level, it's not more damage. A very important piece would also be Meganord's Girdle. That is another 47 strength. Absolute chef's kiss madness. As you then level up further and murder everyone, you can pick yourself a Wanderlust. Wanderlust from level 11 on is another 20% movement speed. Yes, super good. And the Fox Shade Kilted Vest can be replaced at level 20 through the Titanrot Cataphract Armor. This one gives you up to 30% increased strength. Mine is a very low roll. As you can see, it doesn't have much armor and it doesn't have much strength. Still though, that 30% increased strength, you can imagine it with a high roll, it's crazy. Second item you want would be the Suncrest Helmet. This one gives another 14% increased strength. Very good. Lastly, I would kick out the shield to then pick up the Feathered Fortress. Feathered Fortress is level 26 and also provides us with dexterity strength and then cold and fire resistance. And that not a few. I mean, it's 30 and 30. Very good. Fantastic. And that's been the gear I've been wearing from all the way then, the early into the mapping stage. Sure, I could put on some more strength runes. I don't have that many, but I could have put strength runes on every single item piece, or some resistant runes to at least have some basic resistances going on. For my rings, I've also focused on strength, and then bonus strength, and the amulet as well, bonus strength. Because the more strength I have, the more damage I deal, the more my passives will multiply everything up. And I did mention this works on every single class, didn't I? Therefore, I'll have a planner for you. This is the Witch. That's the Huntress, for example. A planner with the items in it, I'll add the items, and the passive tree that works with the stomping ground. For example, the Huntress goes here for the bonus attack damage, attack speed, physical damage, and then it can go over to the side where we have been before for the blinding strike with the attack damage here, physical damage into more physical damage, and then on the side here to the bonus attack damage booster. That would be Huntress, no matter if it's then Ritualist or the Amazon. We have been doing the Witch, same works for Sorg, and I'll add a planner for Warrior, Monk, Ranger, Mercenary as well. Just as a comparison, this is my Lich, and here is my Ritualist. She's doing the same thing, but solo self-found. So I have a better spear. My equipment is still trying to go for strength, somewhere strength wherever I can pick it up, boosting myself max life-wise, but I only have 162 strength because I need a lot of dexterity to pretty much level up my skills and keep up with the curve. But it is the stomping ground, raking around, hitting our opponents. It works even without all the unique items, but in this case we took, for example, bonus damage with spears, which doesn't do anything for the stomping ground because we're not doing spear damage, we're doing stomping ground damage. I've already been focusing more here on the bleeding and the ailment damage to see if the bleeding will overtake the stomping ground at some point, which it doesn't, because we have pretty much proven that you can just all the way go with your stomping ground from 1 to mapping and even into mapping. Now, very important, before you go out there and start leveling, I made a mistake in my journey, and that was with the items that I had, I was leveling too fast. Yes, too fast, too furious. I was at the end of Act 1, killing Count Geonor with level 10. The problem is that you get XP penalty for doing zones under leveled. So what you need to try is in Act 1 to always be in the 3 level range. If you do the Cemetery of the Eternals, you want to at least be level 4. If you do Ogham Farmlands, you want to be level 9. Because if you're lower level than that, you get less XP. It's weird, yes, I know. Therefore, finish the act at least with level 12. Because otherwise, you'll have a problem like me, and you'll end up with level 20 in the Dreadnought. Yes, with level 20 in the Dreadnought, that's 12 levels too low. The problem is if that happens with level 20, then you won't get any XP there anymore. I did a whole Dreadnought level, and that's usually 1 or 2 levels bonus, and I got 5% XP from it. Yeah. Now this level difference changes every 16 levels. So at level 16, you can have 4 levels difference. That means be at the Modern Quarry with level 13 at least, or be at Kath with level 21. Then later with level 32, if you're then in Act 3, you can have a 5 level difference. So in the Azakbok, you want to be with level 31. Could be higher, but at least level 31, or your XP gain will just drastically slow down. And then keep that in mind for every further act. Now, what do you say, ladies and gentlemen? You're going to give this a go? Try to beat these 6 hours? I will have to beat them myself because I made this leveling mistake. I did not actually keep up with my levels, and therefore I took 1 hour longer than I expected. This should have been sub 5 hours. 4 hours and 30 is what I'm aiming for. Maybe even 4 hours if I streamline the whole thing a bit and don't actually have to think about where to put my skill points. And if you're now looking for a build to then build this into, here's an absolute amazing tactician and also Bleed Hunters you could transition into. Enjoy. Have a great good day.